Good morning, friend. Do we have a project in store for us? Am I overwhelmed with what's coming out of the garden right now? Absolutely. Did that stop me from going and buying 150 ears of corn from a local farmer because they are in season and this was an organic farm and I was able to get them for a good price? No, it did not. We are going to preserve up all this corn right now. I do have about 100 plants of corn in my garden. Do I know if they're going to produce? No. I didn't want to seize the opportunity to purchase corn from a local farmer. This right here is probably one of my absolute favorite things to preserve. The flavor is incredible, way better than store-bought frozen corn, way better than any corn you're going to get at the store. If there's one thing I want to encourage you to preserve, well, there's a lot of things I want to encourage you to preserve, but this is personally one of my favorites. So the first thing I'm going to do is just get to work and start shucking this corn. That's all. Just sprayed me in the face. All I'm going to do is start shucking. My parents are on their way over to help me, and we've got plums here. We also have an entire basket, I just harvested that this morning, of tomatoes, all these tomatoes. And my number one priority is the corn, because I bought it yesterday, and the sooner I get to it, the fresher the taste is gonna be. Those plums, we've been eating them fresh, but I harvested them about a week ago, and I don't want any of them to go bad, so I wanna make sure I take care of these today as well. I also have about 50 pounds of zucchini that well, 50 might be an exaggeration, at least 25 pounds of zucchini in the refrigerator. I've been running my freeze dryer all weekend long with herbs and zucchini, and so if that becomes empty, I'm going to load up the freeze dryer with something. And we've got some cucumbers in the refrigerator, but my top priority today is going to be this corn and those plums. I am doing food preservation all week long, so whatever I don't get to today is just going to go to tomorrow. Last year, I had bought from my local farmer 95 ears of corn, and I preserved it up, freezing it. And that got me up until March. So that is why I'm doing 150 ears of corn this year, because I'm hoping it will get me through 1 year. I can't express how much we love this corn. We turn it into corn salsa, corn salad. We use it in things. The flavor is just so good, and that's why I think it's worth going through this effort to preserve it up. When we were out of it, I definitely missed it. So I am thinking that this is going to be more than enough to get us through a year, because I have doubled what I did last year. We make a corn salad today as a side for dinner, and then we preserve it up in 4 different ways. So I hope you enjoy corn preservation, because that's what we're doing today. I'm going to time myself to see how long this is going to take. I started at 11:15 and it is now 11:25. So it's been 10 minutes and I have got 1 whole box full of shucked corn, and I have a lot more to go. So I'm thinking this is probably gonna, what time did I say I started? I started 11:15. I think this is probably gonna take me about an hour. Last year when I preserved the corn, I went to the farmer's market and I bought a bulk amount from one stand, and then I went to the other stand that was selling organic corn for basically the same price if I bought it in bulk, and I bought some of their corn too. So I went to 2 different places. This year I went to the farmer's market over the weekend, and the place that had the organic corn didn't have any corn available because they were between successions of their planting of corn. So they had already sold some and they were waiting for their next crop to be ready to sell. And I knew I wanted to get to it this weekend. And so I knew of another organic farm that's on Savi's Island. It's called Bella Organics if you live in the Portland metro area. And I knew that they were available. And so I called them and asked them, do you guys have corn available? And she said, yes, you just need to give me a heads up and I'll have them pick the corn the next morning. If I had just driven down to their farm stand, they would not have had this much corn picked for me. And so I just called
and said, yes, I would like to order from you all. And so I was able to go the next day and pick up this corn. Now, I did get a bulk price because I had bought so much. If I had bought over 50 ears of corn, they gave me a really discounted price, and I had to buy them in 50 increments. And so that's why I decided to do 150 this year. I've been at it for about a half an hour, and I am about halfway done. So I have about another half an hour. I have my 30-quart stock pot filled with water. This is gonna take a long time to come to a boil. So I'm actually gonna get this going because we are gonna blanch all of this corn so that it preserves better. I have 3 of these boxes completely filled with the silks and wrappers. I'm gonna go dump these and bring them back in so that I can keep filling them up with the remainder of the, what are these called? Silks? Papers? I'm gonna go dump them in my compost system. A few of you asked me about my compost system. It's literally a pile in my woods that I go throw stuff like this in. I would like to be more intentional about my composting system, but that's something that I'm just not quite there yet, you know? We're all just on this journey called life, and right now my compost is dumping it in the woods. We're back in business. So far, I've only had 2 that have had a little bit of a bad spot on it. Just looking at this one looks like the worst so far. I just went to the farm and got a bulk price, and they just counted them out. I did not go through the effort of checking every one. This one has the worst damage on it. All I'm gonna do, because most of it's good, break that off, and I'm gonna give that to the chickens, and the rest of it is totally fine. When I wash it off, we'll eat it, it'll be fine. So those ones were the worst ones. I've only had 2 other ones, and it was just the top few kernels that had any sort of little damage on it. So I'm really happy overall with the quality of this corn. It is absolutely stunning. I do have corn out in my garden, and it has been a roller coaster of emotions when it comes to that corn. I'm looking at it right now, and the corn cobs are just starting to form. I didn't want to miss out on the opportunity of getting corn in my freezer, so that's why I bought this. Even though I do have a lot of corn in my garden, I don't know if it's going to produce. And my gardening is not something that, you know, Josh and I are trying to survive our lives on. It is a passion project for me. I love it. I love the satisfaction of being able to grow my own corn or grow my own produce. But I know that, you know, we can't survive off everything that I grow. And so I have no problem supporting a local farmer and supplementing what I can't grow. And why I do what I do is because Josh and I love eating really good food, and this is so good. Plus, it feels really good to support my local economy. This is the last one, and it is 12:08 right now. So this took me less than 1 hour to get all of this processed, plus I ran to the compost one time. I think I'm gonna go run to the compost now. Again, empty my boxes so I have something to put the kernels, the cob. Once we cut the corn off the cob, I'll have somewhere to put the cobs, because I'm gonna have 150 cobs. All the cobs, well, I was just about to tell you what I was planning on doing with all the cobs, but I haven't fully decided yet, so we'll figure it out together. I think our water is about ready. So let's continue to set up so we can have kind of an assembly line once this corn is blanched. I do need to fill up this really big bowl with cold water. I also have some big towels, and I'm gonna lay these here, and probably one on this counter, but I need to clean the counter off because it's got all the silks on it. So I find that I have less stress on a day like today if I clean up as I go. And I need this kind of clean anyway, because I'm gonna put my clean corn that's blanched on this counter. So I'm gonna wipe it down, get it clean, and then I'll put the towel down. We'll probably have to put the blanched corn on this counter here. I'm still waiting for my water to come to a boil. So I decided I do have quite a bit of silks on the floor. I'm not gonna go crazy cleaning or anything, but I don't wanna keep stepping on all this stuff. So I'm just gonna take a second, since I'm waiting, to get this cleaned up. One of my absolute favorite things I made last year was corn relish, and I only made a single batch because I had never made it before. And we loved it. It was so good on tacos, in quesadillas, anything you want that corn kind of flavor. And the one that I made last year is out of my favorite canning cookbook. I can link it down below. And I'm gonna make it exactly the same way I made it last year. So while I'm still waiting for my water to boil, I need to chop up some peppers. I have poblano peppers here. And then I need to dice up. According to the recipe, I need 1 cup for 1 recipe of finely diced onion. And I am gonna go ahead and get 2 cups diced. Now, this is a water bath canning recipe, so the recipe needs to be followed exactly to the T. You can't just go making up recipes when it comes to canning, because it is a science. It's not an art. It is, I mean, there's an art to it, but it's follow the directions to make sure you're canning safe for you and for your family. So I'm gonna get all these measured out here. Our water is officially boiling. I can probably get about 15 or so ears of corn in here at a time, and I'm gonna cook these for 3 minutes. 3, 8, 9, 10. I put 25 in there, so that means I need to do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, 150. So we're gonna put the timer on for 3 minutes. We have well water. I don't have enough ice to do an ice bath, and so our well water is really cold. So I just filled that big bowl with cold well water. I'm gonna get this corn, it's been 4 minutes actually, out of here. I just have a bowl here. Oop. And I'm gonna be very careful because we're working with really hot corn and really hot water. This might take me longer than the actual blanching process of moving the corn from here to here. I just pulled out some marinated meat from a freezer meal that I made, because with all this yummy corn, you bet we're having corn for dinner, and what's better than fresh corn than something grilled on the grill. So I just pulled that out to thaw so that when I'm done in the kitchen with this big old canning and food preservation day, I can just throw some chicken on the grill and we can have an easy dinner. It's gonna take a second for this water to heat back up, but I don't think it's gonna take us that long to get all of these blanched because I have the help of this 30-quart pot. If you are new to food preservation, I can link my favorite food preservation equipment down below. This was a gift. I probably would have never bought this pot myself, and it is definitely one of my favorite canning pieces of equipment now. I'm gonna put this lid on here and let this come back up to a boil. I'll probably have to empty this water and refill it every other time. I wanna try to stop the cooking process on this corn. This is also a 30-quart mixing bowl. My mom gave this to me for Christmas one year, and I thought she was very silly for getting me a bowl this big. I can't tell you how often this bowl comes in handy with all my food preservation shenanigans I get on. I get 2 around here. I'm just going to keep repeating this process until all the corn is blanched and then shocked in the cold water, and I'll do a couple other things to set up for some of the other projects. I have been preserving corn for many years. I think this is my 6th year doing this, and my favorite tried and true way is to freeze it. I've always loved to freeze corn. It's fresh, it's delicious, it thaws beautifully for at least me, and I've never tried pressure canning it before. I've only been pressure canning for 3 years, I think, and this year I'm experimenting with some new pressure canning projects. How am I going to know if I like freeze corn or pressure canned corn better if I don't try it? I don't ever buy canned corn in the store. That's why I've never taken the time to pressure canned corn, because I just don't buy it. But today we are going to experiment with pressure canning some corn to see if I like it. But I'm only going to do one small little batch, because if I don't like it, I don't want to go through the effort of doing a ton of it. I still have 2 boxes to blanch, but these corns over here are cool enough. While I'm waiting for my hot water to come back up to a boil, I'm going to start cutting the corn off the cob, and I'm going to use my favorite tool, and it makes cutting corn off the cob really easy. So I'm going to start stacking some corn over here. I currently don't have any corn in the pot boiling because I want that water to get really hot again. I think just keep putting corn into it, it's kind of drop the temperature, and I want to make sure it's hot. I have this bowl. This is probably not going to be big enough for all the corn on the cob, but I can at least get started. Here's real time of what it takes to get the corn off the cob, and the cool thing about this little tool is the blade is curved, and so it goes around the cob really well. It is not necessary to have this. I have used a knife every other year, but it is nice to have this when it comes to this big preservation day. I have completely filled up this whole bowl, and my plan was to get all the corn blanched before I started making the relish. I mean, actually cooking it, but I'm running out of bowls. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and on the stove, I'm gonna get that relish start cooking because I have all the other ingredients ready for it. But first I need to empty this, get this in cold water, and get another set of corn in here. Because I'm putting so many ears of corn in this one pot, it's definitely dropping the temperature of the pot. And so it's taking a while for it to come back up to temperature between uses. I did empty my cold water and I put new cold water in. Because that was almost room temperature. I just looked up a recipe for corn cob jelly and corn cob syrup. So I might be trying those. First thing I'm going to add is 18 cups of corn. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get all this to fit in here. I'm going to turn the stove on. I'm going to add my onions and peppers. I'm going to add 8 cups of white distilled vinegar. Now we're going to add 2 cups of water, and I can see that this is not all going to fit in here because I still need to add 6 cups of sugar. I'm going to put a pause on this. I'm going to turn the stove off. I'm going to need my big stock pot in order to finish this. So I've got room in my bowl now so I can continue to keep peeling corn off the cob. And I need to empty this real quick here. It's getting a little crazy in here right now. There is generally a point when I have one of these days where the overwhelm does tend to set in. And I think that's just part of the process. The cool thing about this time of year is it is crazy, it is busy, it is overwhelming sometimes, to be completely honest with you. But the beauty is it doesn't last forever. And in the middle of winter, we are going to have the taste of summer. It's going to taste so good. And I'm going to be dreaming of having my counters full of tomatoes and my refrigerator flowing with zucchini. So it's just kind of cool to live this way where you live in the season and you really know, you feel the different seasons, the abundance of the harvest season and then the quiet and calm of the holidays. I'm so grateful that harvest does not come for me during, Thanksgiving and Christmas, when I love to focus on, having parties and hanging out with family and kind of it's a different kind of busy. And it's kind of fun that we live, or, we can choose to live this way where we can put up the harvest when it's available and we can enjoy the quiet and craziness, I guess, of the holidays too. I was going to say the quietness of the holidays, but I think that at least in our family, it's busy around the holidays, but it's a different kind of busy than this type of busy. And it's just fun to live out the seasons and feel the different seasons, I guess. Enough rambling. I'm going to refill this with some cold water because not only are the corn dropping my boiling water, but the corn is warming up my cold water. Usually at some point during a big food preservation day like this, the feeling of overwhelm sets in. And right now it is because there's just a lot going on everywhere. So I'm gonna get this out of, this is the last of the corn, which is great. And then I'm gonna rinse this big pot out and we can get our corn relish simmering. The corn relish needs to simmer for 20 minutes. And then the biggest thing is that my big 30-quart bowl, I need that 30-quart bowl so that I can finish cutting all the corn off the cob, and that's kind of my bottleneck. I have more big bowls, but right now they all have produce in them. One of them is outside with a bunch of stuff in it. One of them is in the refrigerator with a bunch of stuff in it, has all the plums in it. And so I'm kind of down my big bowls, and that's why I'm using a bunch of little bowls for the corn. And I just want to get this corn cooked, or blanched, I should say, so that I can get that bowl in use cutting the corn off the cob. We did it. Now I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to carefully, because this is extremely hot water, I'm going to pour this down the drain. And in this pot, I'm going to transfer my relish too. Here's the reason I had to transfer it, because I need to add 6 cups of sugar to it. 6, I think I said 9 cups earlier, but I double checked the recipe and it's only 6. Now we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of canning salt or non-iodized salt. Remember, this is a lot, so 2 tablespoons is not that much in the grand scheme of things. I'm gonna mix this together. When this comes to a simmer, we are gonna simmer it for 20 minutes. Officially, all the corn is cooked. So I'm going to get all the corn out of this bowl so I can reclaim this bowl, which is what I've been wanting to do. And then I'm going to tidy the kitchen again because that'll make me feel less overwhelmed. The thing about this bowl too is it'll help prevent the kernels from going everywhere because it's so big. It'll keep the kernels that want to fly away in the bowl. So this is what I mean. This is what is kind of stressing me out. This kind of mess. So I'm gonna go give these to the chickens. I am gonna keep some cobs to make corn cob jelly and syrup, but I don't need all of them. So those ones will go to the chickens. These bowls are full. So I'm just gonna take these and put them over here. I'm gonna clean the counter. And then we'll do the rest of the corn in that big bowl, so we're not gonna have so much corn hopping all over the place and making such a mess. None of this will go to waste. This will all go to the chickens, and they will thoroughly enjoy having a nice, sweet treat. I'm gonna set that box down there because I think I only need to keep like 12 cobs to make the jelly. So the majority of them, the chickens will pick every little last bit off of them and they will be happy to do so. So look who's in the kitchen, gonna help me.
Hi.
My mom's over here for a little bit and she's going to help me continue to cut the corn off the kernel, or the corn off the cob. So Mom, let me show you how to use this.
Sure.
It's kind of like a potato peeler, except it's for corn. I have found it's the easiest to hold the corn and do it away.
Do half at a time.
Yep, and you just go around. It's round, so it comes off pretty easily.
Oh,
And then I turn it
nice.
over.
All right, looks good.
Yeah. So while you do that, I'm gonna start packaging. Oh, and then that just goes down there.
Are the chickens gonna get those cobs?
Yes.
I was thinking about that when I looked out at the chickens when I drove up.
Yeah.
And I knew Becky had all this corn. I was thinking there's gonna be some happy chicks around
Happy
here.
chickens.
Happy hens.
So I'm still waiting for the.
Can I sample?
Yeah, you can have as much as you want. I'm still waiting for that to come to a simmer. It's gonna simmer for 20 minutes. Is it good?
Oh, that's heavenly.
I got it offside on Savi's Island.
Oh, very good.
I'm gonna grab some food saver bags and I'm gonna get those.
How do you hold on to the second side? It's slippery. It's like a greased.
There you go, you got it.
Greased. Now this is way easier than using a knife, cutting it down onto a plate, which is what I usually do. I don't think I'm getting it as deep as you did.
Sometimes I go around twice.
Okay. Well, I guess yours are kind of narrowly looking too.
Yeah. Let's see, I want
I
small.
think instead of freestanding, it works easier for me to hold it down on the bottom of the bowl, so I'm not trying to balance it.
Now that my mom is here helping me, this is gonna go a lot faster. I am gonna start packaging up the corn for the freezer. I have found my favorite way to do it is to use a vacuum sealer. And so I am packaging them up in different increments. I do end up writing on all the bags. I end up doing 4-cup increments, 3-cup increments, and 2-cup increments. And that way I can pull them out depending on what I need. The pot is officially simmering, so I'm gonna turn it down just a little bit so it stays at a simmer. And we're gonna have that simmer for 20 minutes. And I'm out of my pre-cut bags, so I need to go make some more bags.
Pre-cut. Oh,
Yeah, these
it's
are-
on a roll. You can make it as long as you want.
Yeah, or as short as you want.
Oh, that's a good idea.
The bags that I was originally filling the corn in were quart-sized bags, and so those fit 4 cups really easily. But I know that some recipes, I don't need 4 cups of corn. The 4 cups of corn is more if I'm gonna make the salad that we're gonna make later today. I would probably pull that out. Or if it's gonna be like corn and bacon as a side dish, or corn as a side dish, or something like that. But sometimes I just need like 2 cups of corn. So I am making these bags a little bit smaller so that I'm not, using a quart bag for just 2 cups. I'm trying to customize the size a little bit better. I personally prefer the ones that are pre-made. To me, this is not my favorite thing to do, having to make a bunch of custom sized bags. But I have this, so that's what I'm going to use. I'm using my new vacuum sealer, which I absolutely love. The last vacuum sealer I had, I got at Costco. It only lasted me 1 year. And the thing I like about this one is it doesn't suction out all the liquid from the corn. That was something I had a hard time with the last one. And this one, you can custom vacuum seal it. I'm going to take a break from filling these bags because our relish is ready for the next step.
Sure smells good.
It's really good on tacos. It's almost like a corn salsa, kind of. So once I run out of my frozen corn,
Then I start using this as corn salsa.
So is that corn, chilies, and onions simmering?
They did, yep.
What are they simmering in?
Vinegar and
Oh.
sugar. I want to be able to get as much into my jars as possible, so I'm going to take my, what is this called, a spider? Colander?
Yes, I think so.
And I'm going to kind of pull up a bunch of the corn so that I'm not just filling it with a bunch of the liquid. Well, I'm going to put some of the liquid in first, actually, so we don't get air bubbles. I will debubble, but...
This corn recipe is a water bath recipe, which means that when we fill our jars, once they're filled, we can put the lids and the rings on and everything, and then we can put these jars in boiling water and we can boil them to make them a safe product to put on our pantry shelf. The reason we can water bath can this recipe is because this is a high acidic food. Corn itself is a low acidic food, but we added the vinegar, which now makes this a high acidic recipe, and that's what makes it safe to water bath can. Now, we are going to be doing some pressure canning with some of this corn, and the reason we have to pressure can corn by itself is because corn in and of itself, if you don't add vinegar, is a low acid food. And to make that safe to can, you have to pressure can it. When you want to kill the botulism spores in something, you have to heat that product up to a higher temperature than boiling. And that's the difference between water bath canning, is we can make this product safe at boiling temperatures because there's the vinegar in it. But if we don't add vinegar to a vegetable like corn, we need to heat the product up to higher than boiling. And the only way to do that is in a pressure canner. So that's why I can water bath can this recipe versus the next canning recipe we do with the corn, we have to pressure can. Canning can feel really intimidating when you get into it, but as long as you follow the recipe, then it is a very safe thing to do, but you do need to follow the directions.
I did have to check the headspace on this, and the headspace was for 1/2 inch. And then the processing time is 15 minutes once this comes to a rolling boil. This water's pretty hot. Obviously I had my hand in there so it's not scalding, but it's about the same temperature as the contents of the jars. That's what you want so you don't get thermal shock and jars breaking. This feels really good to basically have one project done because I still have probably 50 ears of corn to shuck off the cob. My mom's help was very helpful, but I'm gonna get back to it.
It's definitely more enjoyable when you have a friend or loved one in the kitchen with you on these big preservation projects. So it was really nice that my mom was able to come over and help me for just a little bit. I don't always get to have, the help of someone in the kitchen. And so I just appreciate the fact that you take time out of your day to spend time with me as I do this, because then I don't feel as alone in the kitchen. So I've got my headphones in and I'm just listening and continuing this marathon of removing the corn off these cobs. It was a lot on this day, but so worth it.
About 20 ears of corn ago, I thought I was done. And then I look over by the sink and I have about 20 more ears of corn left. So this is I have 2 more after this one. And I decided I'm going to try pressure canning some of this corn. I have never pressure canned corn before. I'm going to use my electric pressure canner. Just as try, I'm going to do 1 round. I love frozen corn. I've been doing this way for many, many, many years, but I've never tried pressure canning it before. It might not be something I like. It might be my next favorite thing. I don't know until I try. So I figured it wouldn't hurt to get a couple jars. And the way I make a lot of this corn is I turn it into corn salsa throughout the year. And then I don't think I would like, though, canned corn in corn salsa. But if I was gonna make like taco soup or, oh, who
We just finished the last one as I was talking to you. And then I'm keeping these cobs. I'm gonna put these, I'm not gonna get to the corn jelly today. I'm gonna have to package them up, and I think I'm gonna throw them in the freezer just because I've got other more pressing things to do than this in the next week. But if I am gonna make like chili or taco soup, white chicken chili, I think it might be easier just to open a pint jar of corn instead of having to get it out of the freezer. So we are gonna make dinner tonight with this. I'm going to clean up, let me get this in here. So this is all the corn, other than the corn we've already packaged up in these bags, and we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 bags, I think. So let me do a little bit of a reset again, because again, this is a little overwhelming to me. 'Tis the season. It's a good kind of overwhelm. At the end of the day, I will sleep well because it's a good kind of tired. It was worth it in the end. Okay, need to regroup here. Let me go wash my hands first because they're sticky. My whole entire body is sticky today. That corn is sticky. Let me go ahead and get the dinner going after I clean up next, so that that can be in the fridge. And then for dinner, the only thing I have to do is actually grill the chicken. We're just gonna have a corn side dish, but I've got a couple ingredients I need to get for that out. I think I'm gonna make it in this bowl, so let me get this packaged up and I'm gonna get to cleaning. Here is an honest look of what this counter is looking like, and don't even look at the floors because they are a disaster. I thought it would be easier to take my corn that I have already prepackaged and put it on a baking sheet so I could move that around easier. And then I'm going to get these corn in a Ziploc bag so I can just throw these in the freezer for the corn jelly and the corn syrup. Apparently it's supposed to taste like honey, kind of. I'm not really sure. I've heard good things about it. I've watched a couple videos on it and I'm excited to give it a try. And I wanted to get all of them in one bag, so I'm struggling getting all of these in this bag. But it does help my feeling of overwhelm when I can pause on and kind of tidy up. Part of the overwhelm feeling, I think, is just the clutteriness that is going on. And so it does help, just that's my personality. It does help me to kind of do a little reset, and so that I can kind of regroup, get my thoughts going, and then we can get going on dinner. So I was just checking that pot to see if it was boiling yet. Once it's boiling, we'll process it. Now that the kitchen's tidy, I'm gonna go ahead and get the side dish. It's kind of like it is a dip, but it's so good, and I was thinking it would be really good with just some chips and some grilled chicken for dinner tonight. So we're gonna start with a cup of cheddar cheese. I'm gonna go in with 2 cups of the corn. I diced up a jalapeno. We're gonna get that in there. That's a fresh jalapeno. And then I have some freeze-dried cilantro. I'm just gonna crush that and get that in there. The recipe calls for green onions. I don't feel like running to the garden right now and grabbing it. I've got to stay focused on what I'm doing inside. I do have some red pickled onions here, so I'm gonna use those instead. I think that's gonna be delicious. It also calls for a can of diced green chilies. I don't feel like running downstairs, so I'm gonna add some of my home canned chilies. Then we're gonna add equal parts mayonnaise and sour cream. Here are my chilies. The water bath canner is officially boiling, so now I'm going to start labeling these bags. I don't think I made enough bags to fill with this corn. So I'm just gonna get going. I'm gonna put 2 cups in these. I put 3 cups in the other bag, so I need to write 3 cups on those. And I'm gonna write the year. Friend, this is monumental. We got all the corn off the kernels. We've got dinner started. We have the canner going. We've got the cobs prepped for another project, and we can just get going on filling these bags. So this feels like a great step. I end up pausing doing this, and I decided, you know what, I should get the pressure canner going because I want to get the pressure canner going because I want to try pressure canning. So I end up pulling out my electric pressure canner, and we are going to get going on that project next. I thought right now would be a good time to get the pressure canner set up. I'm going to use my countertop electric pressure canner here. And what I have found when I am pressure canning, the best resource is the manual that the canner comes with. But this is for the stovetop one, so I need to grab my other one. This is for my digital pressure canner. Now, you cannot water bath can corn unless you have it in a vinegar brine like I do over there. So whole kernel corn, I'm gonna do a cold pack method. We need, it's on page 23. I have my water to the correct line. There's a line in here where you're supposed to have it. And whole kernel corn, we are going to process pints for 55 minutes. And I'm going to do pints. Pressure canning was definitely intimidating to me when I first started learning to can. I actually didn't pressure can for many years once I became a canner. But it really is a lot easier than water bath canning. And I think the reason it's a lot easier is because typically a lot of the recipes, at least that I have done, are not really recipes that are going into the jar. They're ingredients that are going into the jar. So for the corn, all it is corn, salt, and boiling water that go into the jar, versus typically when I water bath can, I'm making a recipe. Like the corn relish is an entire recipe, jam is a recipe, and things like that. So once you get over the initial, intimidation factor of learning to pressure can, it is really easy, and you'll get more comfortable the more you try it. And I've definitely found that my digital canner makes pressure canning that much easier because it takes a lot of the thought out of it, and I really enjoy it. I still love my stovetop pressure canner. I use that a lot too. It just kind of depends on my mood and whether I'm going to be in the kitchen and can kind of babysit it. You do need to babysit the stovetop one a little bit more. And so I like both of them. It's just I use them in different applications just depending on, what I'm doing. So here I'm adjusting the headspace, making sure I have the proper headspace on each one of them. I debubble it. I have found the easiest way to debubble is to use a chopstick. We're going to get the lid on this and we're going to get this going. Now that the pressure canner is going, the water bath canner is going, dinner is started, I am going to start vacuum sealing these bags. Now, what I have found that I love about this vacuum sealer versus the one that I bought last year is it doesn't suck out all the moisture out of the corn. My last vacuum sealer, when I would vacuum seal corn, it was so tedious because it would vacuum seal out all of the liquid and it would mess with the seal, and so only like half of them would seal, and I was having to open the bag and redo it. And I have found this one is working really well. Now I've only been using it for a couple weeks, so we will see how, I like it at the end of the food preservation season, but so far it has been a huge benefit compared to the one I was using last year. Now here is the corn coming out of the canner. It processed for the proper time. I'm going to get these out of the canner and I'm going to put them on this placemat and I'm going to let them sit here overnight, and then I will mark them what they are, take the ring off, and put them down in the storage. So here I am packaging up 4 cup bags, and part of the reason I did this is because I was getting tired of filling bags, and then part of it I was thinking I would use these 4 cup bags for things when I use corn as a side dish. We really like to saute up some bacon and then put the corn and saute that together, and that makes a really yummy, easy side dish. So that's what I was thinking I would use the 4-cup ones for. And then I realized my 2-cup ones, instead of using a whole cup measure, I was using a 3/4 cup measure. So I'm going and adding just a little bit more to each of the 2-cup bags. And then I'm going to mark on each one so that I know what it is. This is not my favorite thing. This is not my strong suit, labeling, but I do force myself to label every single one of the bags so I know how much is in it and I know that what year I processed it.
The canner is going now. I have the dishwasher going and I am almost done. I think I have one more package to package up, and there's a lot of liquid at the bottom, so I'm trying not to get that liquid in my bag. I was giving the food saver a little bit of a break because I don't want to overwork it because this is a lot. So I've kind of been going back and forth between the food saving, like sealing all these packages and packaging them up. And I'm on the last one here. I think I'm just gonna get the last of this corn in this one bag. And I put 3 cups on there, but I think it'll end up being 4 cups, so I'll just rework that. And am I ever glad to almost be done with this? This has been quite a marathon of a day. It is 4:15. The canner just has to count down now, and I just need to continue to seal these. We got 10 pints, I think, of our relish, and we definitely got a year's worth of corn. It feels like way more. I did 95 ears last year, and I did 150 this year, so I guess it is twice as much as I did last year. But wow, for some reason it feels like so much more. I'm gonna put this one in this bag. Okay, I'm calling that done. Put that in there. My floors are extremely sticky. My counter's extremely sticky. And I have a whole nother, I still have a week's worth of food preservation projects I need to work on. Every day this week, I think we're doing a big marathon food preservation project because it is that season. Tomorrow I am doing tomatoes, and I didn't get to the plums. It's 4:15. It's gonna take me a good hour to do this. I need to clean up so that tomorrow I feel refreshed and ready to go. So tomorrow I'll probably start with plums, and I have a lot of tomato projects I need to get to. So I'm gonna call it here for today. So thank you so much for hanging out with me as we got all of this stuff done. I will continue to work for the next however long it takes to seal these. Plus there's more in the pantry that are still just sitting there waiting. I already put the first round in the freezer, and then I do need to clean up this area because I want to feel ready to go for tomorrow. So thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this, I can pop a couple of my other videos here. You can go enjoy between now and my next upload. I will let you know how I like the pressure can corn. That might be easier than this. It certainly takes up a lot less freezer space to have it on my pantry shelf, but time will tell what works the best. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. You can go watch some of my other videos here, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friends.